Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we'll be looking at how I study. How I study for my essay-based modules and examinations, and how I managed to score 97% at Harvard. So one of the first things that I do is basically create folders like these on my laptop. And the first thing would be to look up past year papers. So basically these are known as 10-year series. I have all the questions from past year papers. So you see, these are the questions. And then I made my own template where I have written down the answer keys, the marks awarded, and in point form, what is accepted versus what is unacceptable. So this is like an examiner's report. I take into account the previous examiner's comments, and I've made my own notes. I'm owning my notes by actually writing down what works and what does not work, what is expected of me and what is not expected in a good response. And by making notes like these, it is very beneficial because you are training your mind essentially to be able to perform at the examination hall, because you're actually practicing. And as you know, practice makes perfect. You are actually practicing past year papers and the questions, and basically honing your craft by repeated practices and by looking through what is expected of you. All right. And know the exam format. So basically going through past year papers would help you in that aspect, because you will realize whether it's examination essay based or whether your examination is MCQ based, multiple choice questions, or short answer questions, or any other type of open-ended questions. So basically know your examination format quite well. And the next thing that I do would be to mark out what are the answers in color. I will mark out what are the answers that are acceptable and what are the answers that will get partial marks. So you see, any 2 points for 2 marks, and students will be penalized if they wrote A, B, and so on and so forth. And with an explanation for each one of them, what is from the passage and what is the suggested answer. All right, let's say you're doing a comprehension passage, a reading comprehension passage. So basically you can study like this and color code your notes for each question. And beyond the 10-year series answer key, I have also compiled a list of model essay questions. So basically, let me show you an example here. These are by top schools, top university questions that I've compiled based on past years. All right. So if you look at this, under politics and governance, these are the questions that could come out. And which year has it come out? How often? What is the frequency? All right. And then for each one of them, I've come up with my own model response. All right. The media and entertainment. So try to group your past year questions by topics. So do a topical categorization or classification of them. Science and technology, culture and the arts, miscellaneous, anything that doesn't fit into the grouping that you have got there would go, anything that is too broad or too vague will go under miscellaneous category. And then essay analysis, so some kind of general tips and pointers also you can compile. So for each one of them, I've gotten some quotations by famous people. All right, when you go on Google, these are very easy to find. So, and you can also quote the person, the famous person or celebrity who said it. And then for each of those questions, you can actually write your own model response, or you can gain access to model responses from the internet or from your school, from your university library, the catalog, where you can actually resource and source for these kinds of model responses. And you can even make, for these model responses along the margins, if you go on Google Docs or Word, Microsoft Word, you can even make comments. You can clarify some of the terminologies or jargon that are used, and remind yourself, make a note to yourself, what are the keywords to use, what are the keywords to avoid for each type of question, and so on and so forth. All right, moving on to my essay outlines folder. So what I've got here would be the different topics like crime, education, environment, gender and family, general philosophical, general social, media, politics and governance, poverty, science and technology, Singapore issues, and religion. So let's take a random one. Let's take education, for example. So under this, these are the commonly recurrent questions. I've already narrowed down the pool of questions from past year papers to the frequently recurrent type of questions, exam prone questions that keep coming out year and again, or semester and again. So these, based on these, let's say these 5 questions, I've come up with an essay outline for each one of them. So the topic would be education. All right, and the question number 1, for example, education has never been more essential in the world today. Do you agree? All right, so I've come up with the question here and underlined it, and then the key terms of the question, I've kind of clarified them. And then the question type, what type of question is this? Is it an absolute question or is it a comparative question? And then I've gone on to take note of possible areas to consider. So this will be the gist of my essay response. In this essay, based on this essay outline, these are all essay outlines, all right? You don't necessarily need to waste time. It can be very time consuming to write an essay, full-fledged essay. So what you can do is make essay outlines like these and you're good to go. So globalization, I actually do bullet points for each of the examples, and then another point, and then a few other bullet points for each of the case studies, and then so on and so forth. And then basically, finally, my conclusion. What would my conclusion be? Yeah. So everything is in bullet points and some of the research from Google or Google Scholar, or even journal articles or textbooks and whatnot, I've included here. So the list is actually quite long, and I've come up with a lot of essay outlines like these based on templates. So let's take another example. To what extent can education bridge the income gap in your society? So on the left-hand column, as you can see, education can bridge the income gap in my society, versus the right-hand column, education cannot bridge the income gap in my society. Because what are the reasons I've listed down? I think coming up with a table like this, a template like this, is very useful because it helps your mind structure the points, structure your evidence, structure your explanations, and the conclusion. All right, so it is all about bullet points. So you can also structure your essay outlines based on yes versus no. What is your standpoint? For example, he who opens a school door closes a prison. Is education a sufficient safeguard against crime? So if you agree, yes, it is a sufficient safeguard against crime, what are the case studies or examples you would use in bullet points? And then versus if you said no, it is not a sufficient safeguard against crime. What are the bullet points? What are the case studies? And what are the examples based on your research? All right, and so on and so forth. And you can even do a question analysis. Some questions require you to take an absolute stand. How far do you agree or how far do you disagree? Some are more discursive in nature, where you can stand in the middle and sit on the fence. So you can have equal number of pros, equal number of cons. So you can do a question analysis for each question, essay question. And what are the possible stands? Agree, disagree, or both imagination and knowledge should be equally emphasized. For example, if they ask you which is more important. All right, and like this, doing an essay outline would be very beneficial in terms of programming your mind to actually think in terms of structures and ideas, points and examples, explanations and links, interlinkages between your different ideas, different concepts. And then I've got the prelim papers. These are compiled from top schools, top junior colleges, and top universities. So each folder is for a separate one. And then if you click on, let's say, for example, one of them, all the different prelim papers or past year papers actually come up. So this is very useful because you can always go back and revisit and practice during your revision. And but by year also, I have categorized my folders: 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. And last but not the least, I've got my AQ folder where I compile like concept maps. These concept maps, let's go to the top. The concept maps are basically about statistics. As we know, for any essay question, unless it's philosophy, you need some statistics. All right. So for statistics, I actually compile and leave some hyperlinks in my notes. All right. So let's say, for example, young people. What are the kind of examples and case studies I've compiled here? To answer essay questions, of course. And then crime. What are the different statistics out there? Loss and punishment. And then if you scroll down, education. So you can color code, make your own notes in whichever format it works for you. I actually use mind maps like these to help my students understand better, yeah, as well as to help myself remember better the concepts whether I'm learning or whether I'm teaching. All right, so you can come up with soft copies, or even can make your own hard copies of mind maps. These are known as concept graphic organizers or concept maps. So you can create your own. There are many templates for you to use on Google Slides, on Microsoft Word, and so on and so forth. You can even download some of them. And another way in which you could take notes, some tricks and pointers, would be to look at mind mapping techniques or note taking techniques. For example, there are many ways you can do it, like chronologically bullet points, or you can draw some arrows and some flow charts. You can even use sketchnoting technique, which I've covered in another video of mine. You can use some pictures, download some videos, so as to help you remember the points better. Yeah, there are a lot of copyright-free images online which you can use. So yeah, these are some of the ways in which you could take notes and study for your examinations. And last but not the least, we may have some model essays also, so that you are aware of what is expected of you. So these are some questions, right? Technology has alienated people instead of bringing them together. Discuss. Can national nuclear programs ever be justified? And so on. Can the media ever tell the truth, for example? So for these kinds of questions, you can compile or you can refer to past year questions and how they have been answered. Yeah? So these are very easy to access, especially online, or if you are connected to a tuition center or tutor, you'll be able to access many model essays. So reading the model essays by top school students or top university students would be a very useful way. You can even color code them and make them very visually appealing, so you feel inclined to do your revision or your studying. You can add some pictures, you can add some videos, hyperlinks, and so on and so forth, as to where you can find out more information. So in a nutshell, all I want to say is in today's video, we have seen how to study and how to study effectively. All right. So hope these tips and pointers would have been useful to you in terms of guiding you, giving you some fresh ideas on how to, basically organize your study notes and study time effectively. I wish you all the best in your studies. Stay tuned for more such videos. Thank you so much.